Hello, everybody, and how are we doing? I will say good evening because here at the moment it's 8:30, nearly 9 o'clock. I'm doing this one pre-recorded to get ready for what's going to happen on a live show on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Now, one thing I could definitely say to everyone is hello. I haven't been on here for a while. It's all been down to medical, personal reasons, but now all that is out of the way. I'm able to start going online again, doing a couple of shows. I'm going to start doing my basics on here, one, maybe two a week, go on other shows like I usually do, and then take it up from there, basically. Well, what this one comes down to is where I've been doing this online for a little bit, not for long, nowhere near as others. I have a few of my mates talk to me about things. So obviously I point out a few shows to my friends and that to have a look at, ones that I've been on and other ones that I like to watch myself. I've got a good friend that I've known for over 25 years now, I'd say, if I'm adding it up right, around about 25 years. God, talk about make yourself sound old. And the man definitely knows his football. And sorry to say, he's a Spurs supporter as well, just like the rest of us, so he feels our pain. And after watching a couple of shows of ones I pointed out to him, he's decided that he would like to say his part on why we should keep Levy in at the moment. Like I said, this is pre-recording and getting ready for Tuesday night because the one that my mate has said that he would like to have, let's say, a friendly about, he said he'd like to talk to Stell about it. I was like, okay. So would you be willing to go live online? It's like, sure, not a problem to me. So I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. So I spoke to Stell. And anyone who knows Stell will obviously know that he's always up to talk to anybody who's got the front to even come online and say Levy In, because that is one thing. We know there's a lot of people out there that are Levy In, but there's not a lot of people that have backed themselves up with it. There's not many people that will even come online for it. So what I'm going to do now is add my friend Dave here. And here we go. Hello, Dave. How are we doing, mate? Long time no actual see.
Yeah, hello Dan, and thanks for having me on, and welcome everyone else. I will start by saying it's actually more than 25 years, so age is certainly catching up with us now.
Oh, don't
But yeah,
make
as
me
you,
feel
as you
older.
say, we've known each other a long time, and obviously we've always had good debates over football and stuff in life in the past. Been pointing out a couple of podcasts to me that I've been following. And yeah, so obviously I've seen a lot of the Levi out arguments, and I just would like to come across and say I don't just think Daniel Levi in is the right call for Tottenham Hotspur as a football club. I'd even go as far as saying he's the best football chairman in the world currently. But I'm sure we'll get into that debate.
You'd really say that? The best football chairman in the world?
Actively at this point in time, yes.
Okay,
I'm
fair
not
enough.
saying he's been the greatest football chairman in the world up till now. I'm just saying he's best placed at this current point in time to be in with a shout of best football chairman currently going.
Okay, fair enough. I suppose we all got our own opinions and that, and I suppose we all got our own secrets. So just out of a question, before we take this on a live one on Tuesday night, what made you want to have a debate with Stell about it? Give me a couple of reasons why it's Levy In. I just need to hear a couple of reasons.
Well, I think for the Stell specifically, obviously you pointed me to the Tottenham Away podcast and that. So that was just a point of reference as being an example of the Levi out. And obviously I like the shows and I like the points he comes across. And he seems like a sensible person that's willing to have a sensible debate, right? So I don't want this to get into a slanging match because I'll immediately turn off at that point because there's more important things to worry about in life than who's the chairman of your football club.
Very true. Some people, Dave, mate, they take it personally. And when I say personally, they take it heated.
Yeah.
But no,
but
still
without giving too much away, I think from a business point of view, I think that most Levi out people would agree that from a business side of things, we're actually one of the best run clubs in the world. And it's currently, that's coming to bear fruit now. And this is why I'm currently thinking that he's in with a shout to be called best chairman of the world in the world at this current point, because of where we are at this current point in time. So the profitable business side, the fact that, without giving too much away for some of my arguments, the fact that we've got Chelsea fans putting money in Tottenham Hotspur's pockets to go on our Skywalk is just the ingenious of the man. And obviously that with the NFL stuff that we'll touch on further down the line, it's way ahead of everyone else's thinking when it comes to that wide global.
And the little go-karting track coming on as well.
The little go-karting track, exactly. So I think there's not too much of a debate to be had on the business side. I'll happily go into it. But I'm already going to feel that people are screaming will go, well, it's not just a business, it's a football club. And this is the side that will probably be debated about a lot hardly than the business side of things. But I think
that's sorry to interrupt you, Dave. I think that's the bit that bugs everyone, is the football side of it that really pisses everybody off, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's loads of examples of mistakes that he's made, and I'm fully aware of a lot of them. And, when it comes to the debate, I'm open-minded enough to go, yeah, you're right on that point. My point about it is, if we're just looking at the football side, I think the positives outweigh the negatives just. And that coupled with his extremely impressive business record overall means I'm a Levi in person. I think the footballing side of things, he's fought a lot of the times with his heart over his head, and then he's flipped that away the other way and gone with his head over his heart. And
the man's got a heart.
It's not been the clearest of thinking. Well, he's a Tottenham lad. He's a Tottenham fan through and through. He wants.
So he says. So he says.
And he's coming at it from a business head at times, and I think he's made a lot of mistakes in the football. We'll get through those individual debates, but his first appointment as manager, as chairman, was Glenn Hoddle, and there's not a single Tottenham fan that wouldn't have gone, yeah, we'll have Glenn Hoddle as manager at that point in time, whose stock
I'll have to agree
still remains high to this day from a coaching point of view. You listen to a lot of former English players, they'll say Glenn Hoddle was the best coach they ever worked for. And then you look at his latest appointment, Ange Postecoglou, who's putting a massive smile on everyone's faces. Although I will caveat that with the fact that we're smiling because the last couple of years have been so
well, look, hang on a minute.
Right?
Hang on a minute. We'll get to that one in a sec. So finish Daniel Levy bit, and then I'm going to go to that one in a second. We'll bring up Ange in a second.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, obviously Daniel Levy hired Ange. So you can't talk about one without talking about the other. My point is, I'm just saying his first managerial appointment and his last managerial appointment have been spot on, right? Glenn Hoddle didn't work, but that's not to say the appointment made by Daniel Levy at that point in time wasn't the correct one. You could argue that it didn't work out for other reasons, and Daniel Levy was a part of that. Of course you can. But the actual appointment, so his first thing he done as chairman was do the appointment that every Spurs fan wanted, right? So I'm just saying, first and last appointment he's got right. There's plenty in the middle that we'll obviously have a heartily debate about, because obviously I can't sit there and defend some of the decisions he's made.
Fair enough.
That's where I'm coming
at.
And I'd also, just to caveat that with the football point, I don't think you can blame Daniel Levy for some of the misses that we've had. We've reached a few finals, not had the bottle to get over it. We've reached a Champions League final, and Harry Kane's ego got in the way. So there's certain things Daniel Levy's got no control about, by the way. So that's what we'll dissect on this debate: was it the managerial's fault, or was it the chairman's fault?
Okay, no, this sounds good, and I'm looking forward to this. So everybody, this is going to be Tuesday night at 9 o'clock with Stel and Dave. I might see if I can get a couple of other people on there, but just by looking at it, I think it's just going to be an interesting debate between the two of you. I'm going to basically sit back and watch you two have a good debate and ask a couple of questions with you. Right, so diverting off the Levy bit and everything and that, yeah? Just about yourself, a bit more about yourself, Dave. How long have you been a Spurs supporter now?
Technically all my life, but technically all my life. I mean, my first initial memories were the very late 80s, so it would have been the Gaza Lineker years. Don't get me started on Gary Lineker, because that's a completely different argument as a human. But
yeah, don't even go there.
We'll move on from that. But basically, my first number when I first started playing as like a 5-6-year-old was number 8 because of Gaza. So my first memories of football was us reaching the FA Cup final. I had the road to the final, including obviously the final itself, on video back in the day. VHS, look it up to the youngsters out there. But those were my earliest memories. So we'd won a trophy very, very early on in my Spurs supporting career, and we had some of the world's greatest players. When you look at the likes of Gaza and Lineker,
we had some excellent players.
But up until from that point up until now, right, success has been very limited.
I think that's an
I'm a very
understatement,
frustrated
Dave.
Spurs fan.
Limited, I think that's an understatement.
Yes, and we will obviously delve into that a little bit more. You know, is it the journey or is it the destination that you as a football fan want, right? I'd argue that you want both, but if the journey is good enough, you can take a few losses here and there as long as you're having fun along the way, which I believe we will do with Ange. I know obviously not going down that route just yet. But yeah, so that's my background. The second background is the actual fact that I'm a football coach.
I was about to say, sorry,
right now,
Dave. I was about to say, you've done coaching and that yourself, quite a lot of it as well, and you used to play a hell of a lot as well. I mean, I remember when I used to play football with you. I mean, you was definitely better than me. I was always the one who used to enjoy taking legs out, but that was just the way I played. You was always
playing football and you're still toe caps down.
Wasn't far from it, was it, mate?
No.
Go on, give us a bit of detail about your coaching.
Yeah, so you've got a couple of years on me. But if you'll remember rightly, when I was, I think about 14, 15, I was managing the adult side that we all played for back in the day. So I started really young as the managerial point of view. Ended up having some success further down the line. We ended up winning a league a few seasons and you couldn't call it the same team that I started out of, but there was a few players that were still there. So yeah, I had some success, was really into my coaching, and then basically fell off a cliff with football in terms of my love for it. I got into darts and because of the politics around football and the way, you know, the Chelseas of the world have come in and kind of stole the essence of football. Exactly. It don't feel like football's for football fans anymore. But that being said, the last sort of 6-7 years or so, I've kind of got back into it. And I think, as I say, the help of the podcast, you know, the fact that you can have these debates with people, because you don't get to go down the pub so much as you get older, right, with your mates. It tends to be these online sort of chats where you can sort of have that pub talk with people. So yeah, I'm a bit more passionate about things these days in football, but I did have a significant dip of time away from it for a few years.
I mean, I remember when you did play, you was actually bloody good. I mean, you had to stop playing because I do remember you had an injury at one point that when you told me about it, I mean, make me cringe was an understatement. What was that injury, if you want to tell the people?
So it's very common. 95% of this injury happens to elderly people that get run over by their own car. So picture your... Yeah, I know. So say my finger's my knee, the middle part of my finger's my knee. So obviously your bottom half of your leg doesn't bend left and right, does it?
No, it does not.
Right. So I can't even do it with this. But basically, the bottom half below the knee went outwards. So it kind of then crushed the knee. Sorry if anyone's eating their dinner. But yeah, but apparently it's a popular injury for the elderly getting run over by their own cars because it's a very unusual way to sort of hit your leg.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just going in for a tackle, really. So.
I suppose that's.
But I have played about
football.
I've played about 15 games for the vets team since returning from injury. So I have had a run around since. And the knee actually weirdly feels as strong as it's ever been. So I wouldn't recommend it, but if you end up going through it, you end up with a stronger knee.
Okay, fair enough. Do you know what? I'm just going to have to take your word for that one. I'm not going to try it out myself. And I'm sure anybody who's watching this is just cringing at the moment, just thinking, I ain't trying that out myself.
No, definitely not. It's obviously 6 months out of work as well. So
yeah. Painful. I don't wish that one on no one. Anything on the knee, cartilage, anything like that is just pain on its own. I mean, I remember what it used to feel like just getting kicked in the shin, let alone bloody having your kneecap done. So, all right, go on. What I'm going to go with here quickly, just get a bit more information about you as such and your opinion with Tottenham and that. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people on here already know my opinions about things. A couple of questions got for you then. So, what do you think of the new manager? What do you think of Ange Postecoglou?
I think I will speak for a lot of Spurs fans and say when it was initially announced, there was a bit of an underwhelming feel about that. However, immediately after he took control, his first interview won me over. It was exactly the right attitude I wanted to hear from a manager. It's, we can do this, not we'll give it half a go. So for the mental side of things, and one thing that I think people confuse with Ange is he comes across as this bubbly, caring, sort of lovely person, but he's actually quite a cold person behind the scenes in terms of he separates managing the players as football and managing the people that's working for him. So the person and the footballer, he's separate to him. So he comes across like this lovely sort of uncle type figure, but behind the scenes, he's got the Antonio Conte in him that will make these players work hard, but they'll do it with a smile on their face now. And I won't get too far into the players, by the way, because I'm going to rip them a new one when we get into this debate. But I just think Big Ange's personality and also his tactical approach, I'd rather win 4-3 than scrape out a 1-0, is Tottenham. You know, I can
it is a bit of Tottenham all over, isn't it?
We're an entertaining team. We're the neutrals' favourite team to watch. And I don't mind being that to a certain extent, because at least when we're watching our team play, it's entertaining one way or the other. Sometimes it's against us embarrassingly bad, right? We've been through those big defeats before. But we very rarely get a turgid 0-0 game at Tottenham. And that's how Tottenham should be. If we're going to lose, we're going to lose going forward.
I think, Dave, I think we've actually scored. I think we've actually scored in our last 30-plus games.
Yeah, I mean, the Man City one, because obviously it was an FA Cup one, wasn't it? So it was actually a bit longer. But if we're just going on the league, yeah, it's about 34, 35 now,
Yeah. But at the moment, we seem to be going through a phase where we've got one clean sheet out of 14 games. And that's definitely...
So I messaged my old football team's WhatsApp group at the start of the season, because I like a bet, and I don't want to promote betting too much, because obviously some people don't. But I just said to the lads, if you're having a bet this season, every single game, go Tottenham, both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Every game. And I think if you put £1 on every game, you'd be up on the money. And that to me just sums up Ange Postecoglou's tactics. And I'm here for it because it's entertaining. So,
well, yeah. Do you know what? I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, I've had this debate with a few people. Some people say I'm right, some people say I'm wrong. Everyone's got their own opinion. In one aspect, I think Ange had one of the easiest jobs that a manager has ever had, and that was winning over the crowd.
Yeah.
And I've had people say to me that that's nothing to do with being a manager and whatever else. And like, no, as far as I'm concerned, being the manager, you've got to get everything working. Okay, they don't have to like totally run the team like say Alex Ferguson used to, not just run the team but run the club. It's more run the team now, but it's definitely keeping the fans in sync. The reason I reckon he had the easiest job ever is because, as far as I'm concerned, all he had to do was take over Tottenham and say, pass the ball forward and attack. And I think he already won over 90% of the fans. That's my opinion.
The bar was so low, wasn't it? The bar was so low, so he could only go one way, and that was up. I mean, when we talk about the bar being so low, obviously football on the pitch, the results, the atmosphere around the club, the relationship with the fans, but go deeper than that. The under-21s pathway to the first team, the under-18s pathway to the under-21s. You know, even our ladies football team this season are playing the Ange Postecoglou way. Did you see that goal they scored against Arsenal a couple of months ago? Honestly, that was Ange ball. He's infiltrated the whole club with his ideas and his philosophy. Conte literally obviously turned up. I want the first 11. That's all I care about. Stop
that's what he does, isn't it?
Kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. So when Ange has come on, he's gone, right, this inclined club is on its arse.
It's a mess.
But it's got every single bit of resource it needs to pick it up quite easily. So you are absolutely right, Dan. It was one of the easiest jobs in football. And I totally disagreed with some of the pundits when they said, it's a hard job because he's lost his goal scorer. I thought, no, that's a wonderful thing for him to do, to lose Kane, because the team had been built around Kane for 10 years and hadn't won.
Let's go to that one in a second. That was actually the next question I was going to ask you. So we go to that one in a second, mate.
I love Harry Kane, by the way.
Oh, didn't we all, don't we all sort of thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Except when he puts it over the roof against France. Apart from that, I must say I've loved the fella overall. Apart from that one, I could have shot him, but there you go.
100%. Spurs legend for life.
Oh, definitely. So that's the next question I was actually going to ask you. So many people, this went on for so long with this Harry Kane thing. It didn't just go on for like the 6 months, whatever. It had all been going on for like 2 years before then, where he really could have gone Man City and whatever else. What is your opinion on us losing Harry Kane? Is it for the better? Is it for the worse? Do you think it's had a good effect, bad effect? Give me your reasons. What is your opinion on us losing Harry Kane?
Well, in hindsight, in hindsight, once again, Daniel Levy has shown what a shrewd footballing chairman he's done, because he's taken over 100 million for a player that's in his last year of his contract and he's reaching that age where he's going to start going the other way. I know Harry Kane, the argument with him, and I agree with this, by the way, he'll probably have a longer shelf life because he's never relied on speed.
Exactly.
So he'll have a bit longer as long as he's injury free.
Which, like I said, is Sheringham sort of thing. Kane.
Exactly that, is Sheringham. And I can see him being back at Spurs at some point in the future, by the way. But that's another argument. Me personally, I thought selling him had to be done at that point because there's no way we can lose that amount of money. And the fact that it's been structured in a way that he has to come back to us first if we match the offer. We're also playing friendlies with Bayern to get the extra money in because obviously Levi loves these extra bits of money. The fact that even just like literally, I think 2 hours before the ink was like about to be confirmed, like and dried and that, he said, "Oh, by the way, can you just give us a little bit extra here?" Like it was like 20 grand or something ridiculous, damn. It was like, you know, the travel expenses to and from.
It was probably to pay for his plane, wasn't it?
The man is an absolute menace when it comes to making sure the pennies turn into pounds, right? But anyway, that's not the point you're asking me. The point about Kane is I think it was the right decision at that point in time. If you're asking me deep from the heart, I would have said a year or two earlier would have been the right time to sell him. But that would be more for Harry Kane's benefit. And that's including a lot of hindsight because people are going to be screaming now, what about all his goals and assists? What about all his goals and assists? Yeah, but because he was there, that's how we set up to play. Oh, we've got Harry Kane. Let's just get the ball to him as best as we can and hope he does it. That is no way to run a football club longer term.
Exactly, Dave. I've had this debate with a lot of people, and I can definitely understand the point of Harry Kane. But one thing I've said that really did start bugging me at Tottenham is we were basically the Harry Kane club. And if things weren't going right, it was, oh, where's Harry Kane? Don't worry, he'll sort it out.
Yeah. And I think it was a similar thing, like, and this is going off topic, but it's a very similar thing, was when David Beckham in that game against Greece. It's always remembered for David Beckham saving us. And I still remember tactically, David Beckham ruined us that game by trying to do everything. And we couldn't play as a team. So, you know, it's just one of those. It depends what you want to look at. You can look at Kane's stats and go, well, we shouldn't sell someone that scores X amount of goals, X amount of assists when we need goals and assists. Yeah, if you're just basing the argument on that one individual fact. But how about this? How about if Harry Kane isn't playing, we have to play a way that will suit a squad, not 6-7 individuals or whatever. So that way, if we do get injuries, we still play the Tottenham way, which is Ange is proving now, right? Even with those ridiculous injuries, we still played the same way. Not the results, but we still played the same way most of the time. So I was happy for Harry Kane to go a year or two earlier than he went. But I think we done the right thing by getting every last ounce of success out of him in terms of goals and assists. Success is a funny word, right? And the fact that we had Conte and Mourinho, the kind of managers that rely on it, let's just be hard to beat and rely on quality at the other end of the pitch. But I think it was the right time. New era, new dawn. The only thing I will say that with Dan, and we touched on this the other night when we first started talking about this, was we're in a position now where our starting 11 is getting really, really good, that we're only a Harry Kane away from winning the league. Like that striker, really? that final striker, you know, because I love Sonny up there, but I don't think over 38 game season plus the Europe and that we're going to be in, I don't think he's the main man. Richie, I love for different things, but you know,
really?
you look at the scum down at Arsenal, right? They need a striker massively. We need a striker massively. I think most clubs do generally, right? There's only a few in the world that've got a world-class striker, but I just think that's an area that once Ange gets the rest of the team sorted, we're going to have the whole if only we had Harry Kane still at the team, we'd have the best team in the world right now. But we had to get rid of Harry Kane. Get rid of Harry Kane to rebuild the rest of the squad, if that makes sense. And the philosophy, I mean, starting from scratch.
Yeah, to an extent, we are. Yeah, I mean, one player I'm definitely happy as we got him, and I was already screaming for it 2 years ago, was to get Jamie Maddison.
Yes.
I mean, the way that fella plays and the way we got him for what 30-40 mil basically, I don't think you're going to get a bigger steal out there.
It wasn't even that much, by the way.
No,
it wasn't even that much. The way
because we sold them Winks, wasn't it?
Levi done the deal. Yeah, we sold them Winks.
I mean,
Daniel Levy's gangster. Here you go. Harry Winks, he's worth 10 mil. To be fair to Harry Winks, though, he after a slow start at Leicester, he's actually playing quite well for them now, and I wish him all the best.
From what I've heard, he's actually doing all right. Yeah, well,
but he's at that level.
trying your best ain't always there. Well, one person you have
anyway.
mentioned that you have mentioned there is this fella here. Really?
Yep.
My aim is to be the Premier League's top goal scorer from Brazil. So
Well,
what do you actually
that,
think on... Well,
what
do you think on Richarlison?
Time? Sorry.
I don't know whether he means all time, whatever. I just think he wants to be the top scorer. Now, I am not a Richarlison fan, and I haven't been over the past, 50-something games he's played for us. I think he has been absolutely awful, dreadful, whatever word you want to use. I think he's been one of the worst buys ever.
Yeah.
But, and it's always the but, isn't it? Over the past 8 games, 10 games even, I think he's got, 10 goals in 10 games now. Now, I know he scored 2 in games, whatever and that. But,
yeah,
let's say the past 8 games, he's actually seems to have got his act together a bit, doesn't he? Why do you reckon that is? Do you reckon it's down to the injury he had, or do you reckon it's just he's going through a purple patch, as people call it? Not my phrase that I usually use.
Yeah.
Or do you reckon he's actually going to stick with this? Because for me, he's not the man we need to take us to another step.
Listen, I mean, that last sentence you've just said there, I'm probably with you if I'm being really, really brutally truthful. He's probably not the man to eventually get us to where we want to be. That being said, to answer the second part about the injury, why is he playing so well lately, it is 100% to do with that injury, which in turn includes the mental side of dealing with that injury as well. I know he's had some personal problems. But going back to my manager's hat, Dan, Ange Postecoglou said, go and have your surgery, even though we're short of players. Because he knew full well he can flog Richarlison even more. But Richarlison's going to lose stock with the fans, struggle more, go down into more of the mental health pit. He's gone, no, you know what? Let the team suffer for a few weeks. You go and get your surgery, get yourself back, and you be the best version of yourself when you get back. So that's clearly the answer for me. It was very much that injury was... You can even see it, like mobility-wise now. He's so much more mobile on that pitch. And I think he was really being hampered by that injury. So, yes, I do agree that the purple patch is because he's no longer injured. And he's got to be more of a free mind about that. Going back to your point about generally how good he is the least Brazilian footballer I think I've ever seen in my life. And we had that left back. What was that left back? It was a left back Brazilian.
Roberto Carlos.
Gilberto.
Sorry,
Gilberto.
I thought you meant Gilberto.
Gilberto,
when you said left back Brazilian, as soon as I left back Brazilian, I'll think of Roberto Carlos.
We definitely didn't have Roberto Carlos. No, Gilberto. That's what I'm saying. We've had a couple of bad Brazilians, and
Emerson, he definitely ain't all that, is he?
Great. Emerson again.
Boyal.
I mean, I don't know what's going on in Brazil, because these are players playing for the Brazilian national side, and they do not look Brazilian. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't stereotype. Maybe there's a bigger issue there with us English, right?
No, Dave. I'm going to have to stop you there, mate. You can't help but stereotype on Brazil. Yes, from what I've seen, I mean, I'm 43 now, and what I've seen over the years with people like Roberto Carlos, Ronaldinho, the real Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and everyone else, Brazil made that name for themselves.
Sorry.
That's all right, mate. Go on.
No, like the thing about Richarlison, he don't look Brazilian. He looks like an English number 9 from 20, 30 years ago. Like he just puts himself about up there, barging into defenders, being an absolute nuisance. I mean, do you see the thing he done against Neil Maupay? The fans were obviously loving it, and they see it again on social media afterwards. When he just runs past, gives it the pigeon.
Yeah,
like I love his craziness. He's like, an old-fashioned English number 9 that you didn't like playing against. He was horrible, absolute horrible, but not the best technically. And I think if we get the service right for him, because I think there's a number of times when you look out, when we've got the ball out wide, shifting to play the ball in, a lot of times it's just him in there. And we're putting in these just big eyeballs and a bit hopeful for him. We've got to give him a bit more of a chance by giving him balls that he can either attack when we've got more players in the box, by being a bit more patient in the past, or if we are going early, then play it to his strengths in front of him rather than just hanging it up in the air between 2 centre-backs. But to answer your question, is he the best striker in the world? No, of course he isn't. Is he Brazilian striker? No, I don't think he is. I think he's got a different.
I don't think they have much better option though, do they?
No, either that or the one down at Arsenal, isn't it?
And he ain't exactly a striker either.
No,
But,
he's
yeah,
he's
okay.
an amazing YouTube footballer, but yeah, it's not that end product, is it? But yeah, my view on Richarlison is I think we need a Richarlison in the squad. But he's your second striker. He's your, maybe even your third if you start going to the Man City's like levels of the world. And that,
Well,
2 or 3.
one bit of defence I'll give him, Dave, is like, again, everybody knows I do not rate him in the slightest, but I must admit I've got an attitude of credit where credit is due, and over the past 8 games, credit is due at the end of the day. The one thing I will say, is I'm going to say this word that will wind a few people up, basically, if you even say a bad word about it, and that is Son. Yeah. Now, the way he played last season, I mean, you can say the way everybody played last season, but the way he played last season, I thought he was terrible, especially by his standards. But the story came out, he was playing with, I think it was a hernia or something like that, or whatever. He had an injury or whatever, and he played the injury all season. So everybody said, okay. I mean, I was up for selling him at the end of the season. I thought he was that bad.
The exact opposite that what happened to Richarlison this season, because he was being flogged last season by Conte, weren't he? You have to play because I need you. I've got nothing else.
Exactly. And it seemed like everybody's willing to give Son the, okay, you was injured. Okay, Son's done a lot more for us. He's been a quality player, whatever else. I get all that, But if everyone was willing to turn around and say, well, give Son like the next chance for this season because last season he was injured. If it's the same story with another player, not just Richarlison, but there's a chance that he was playing that poor because he was playing with an injury, shouldn't everyone give him like a chance, do you reckon?
I don't know, because I think this goes back a bit longer with Sonny. I think there's love for Sonny as a human being.
Exactly,
probably
there
distort your opinion from a footballing perspective. And I find myself guilty of this sometimes with him as well, because I just think as a human being, he is absolutely amazing. And again, I don't want to stereotype, but just that area of South Asia and having friends from Hong Kong in darts that stayed over my house for tournaments and things like that, it's a cultural thing about having respect for other people. And it goes very deeply. And I think he's just of that mindset that he is so respectful that he then comes across so likable, right? And he obviously stayed with us when he was at his prime and we were at our worst. He signed that contract, whereas Harry Kane didn't. And that's why his football is often, he can have a bad game and get away with it.
Well, when you've had a lot of good games, you can get away with having a bad game.
And that as well, Dan. And
Richarlison hadn't had a good game, basically, maybe bar one. I think he scored 2 goals last season, or maybe 3.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
so I can understand why Son got the slack.
In play.
I mean, Richarlison yesterday, he had a brilliant goal. I mean, that second finish he done where he just basically passed it into the net exactly where he wanted. Maybe showed what he can do. So maybe people are going to have to give Richarlison a bit of slack, mate, like a bit of.
My view on Sonny as well, like as a footballing point of view, that we touched on this, was that if he's got to think about it, I think he struggles. If he's playing on instinct, he's one of the world's best. And
that's the same. That Son is definitely like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Much time
we've had this discussion about whether he can be considered world class, because if you've got a major flaw like that, how can you be world class, right? When you're sitting there saying he's only good if he's not thinking about it. If he has to think about it, he struggles. So that's not a sign of a world class player, right? I totally get that. I think he's as close to being world class a player without being a world class player. I think he's like literally that
is how I see it. I mean, his finishing is world class, no 2 ways about it. But
there's only 5 world class players in the world, right? If that.
Quite possibly, But people have a different opinion on world class, don't they? But for me, I do believe Son has been excellent for us over the years, but he does have his patchy stages as well. That's why I just don't quite consider him world class like a majority of people. But he's probably the best finisher with both his feet. He can put it in the back of the net as good with his left as he does with his right. And there's not many players that have ever been there, let alone at the moment, that can finish as good with either foot, basically. So he has got world-class talent.
Statistically, his finishing is the best.
It's better than Kane's.
The only 2 players in the last sort of 10 years, and for those that didn't hear this stat, because I'm just remembering now that we spoke about this the other day, Dan, so for context for other people weren't there. So he's got the outperforming his XG for the season. Now, I don't like this stat, but what it does show is that his goals that he scores are harder, and they shouldn't be goals, but he still makes them goals. Out of the top 5 seasons that stat's been running, 3 of the seasons have been Heung-min Son. One's been Kevin De Bruyne, the other's been Mo Salah. So, context, he makes goals when he shouldn't make goals, and he is amazingly world class at that area of football. When you're talking about
I was one
in terms of overall, he's got flaws in his game, right? So,
who has
a tough one. I'm like,
I do get it, but I was one who said I don't really think he's that good at making his own goals. Like, when I say that good, he is good, but he's no Harry Kane. And with Son, for me, he needs a feeder. He needs someone like Maddison to put the ball onto him that he can run onto. And what 9 out of 10 strikers do, like we say, not everybody is a Harry Kane type of style. But I do class him as an excellent player. But for me, he just don't quite hit that world-class bit. And I know that offends a lot of people when I say that.
The only reason I'll agree with you on that, Dan, is that we had this conversation the other night. It's because there's less world-class players in football now than there was 20 years ago.
Oh, of course it is. I'm the first one to say that. In the 90s, if you go and bring up some of the people in the 90s, I don't know, like Figo, Raul, Ronaldinho, even what Shevchenko was like. Even when you go back to Pirello and stuff like that, like midfielders, you go to defenders, you go to Nesta, or even John Terry, people like that, Steven Gerrard, all that is world class to me. Whereas modern day players you get, I just feel they're labelled world class way too easy. And if you compare them to half the players that was about 90s, 2000, they wouldn't even get into those teams. I mean, Paolo Maldini, that is world class defender for me.
Yeah.
And I just think world class is labelled way too easy these days.
100%. And the reason for that is Lionel Messi and Ronaldo. The era of that is because we've gone, they're the GOATs. Then that next layer of players behind them are all world class, because Messi and Ronaldo are above everyone else. They're not even world class, they're beyond that. But no, Messi and Ronaldo were world class. Right? And at that point in time, there was only really Gareth Bale that you could put there. Now, I'm one of, I would include like a Modric.
Gareth Bale was world class.
Yeah.
And Modric.
But Modric was, but Modric will never get the credit for how good a player he was, by the way. He's still going there. He's ridiculous.
I mean, what is he now, 38?
So Son's not world class, but he's still probably in the top 10 of the world. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, had he been just as good as he is now, it'd probably been 40, 50th best player in the world, if that makes sense.
No, I totally agree with you. That's pretty much how I see it. So I definitely like the opinion on that one. You made some excellent points there, and you back up all your points. That's why I've always said you are a nightmare to have a debate with. If you're going against it. Makes a change, doesn't it? But it's all right. So everybody, what I'm going to do is cut this short and sweet, because I said it won't be a long one, and I've got a couple of things to do tonight. Obviously, mate Dave has as well and that. And this is just getting everyone to know my mate Dave, that I've known for a very long time, that wants to have a debate with Stell, which is going to be Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. So everybody here to watch that one, because it's going to be a very interesting one, I think, here, because I know how you can debate, and you are a nightmare. And I also know how Stell could debate, and he could be a nightmare to go against as well. So what I'm going to say to everyone is give us a quick like and subscribe. It would be appreciated. And for a very interesting debate, I suggest everybody gets over to the Hotspur Hood, 9 o'clock Tuesday night. So thanks for watching, everybody. I will say goodbye. Dave, you got anything to say?
No, thanks for having me. I mean, that actually flown by that.
It's a pleasure.
It started out as a 10-minute quick chat, didn't it, Dan? 40 minutes later.
But it's football, isn't it? As soon as you start talking about football, it can go everywhere. So, right, everybody, give us a like and subscribe. No problem, mate. Fully enjoyed it. And I'm sure I'm going to be having you on here a lot more, because I think you're going to get a taste for this. So, everybody, one more time, like and subscribe. Be here Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. And I will see you later.